Hello students and welcome to the lecture. So students, as we know that we are covering the financial knowledge and basically banking awareness part of it. And since the last lecture, we had started the National Housing Bank. Okay, we have discussed the various facts and figures about it. Alright, so before continue the lecture, what I will do, I will just try to figure it out that whether you have revised it or not by revising some values again in front of you. Okay, so the first is the full form. You might have seen the NHB written over some places, like on the banking, you can say proclamations, also in your examination. All right, so what NHB stands for? That should be our first question. So basically, the NHB stands for the National Housing Bank. Okay, NHB stands for National Housing Bank. All right, secondary, if we talk about the body type, like which type of body is NHB? So basically, NHB is a statutory body, right? NHB is a statutory body. If this is a statutory body, as I have told you, we have the three types of bodies. First is the royal body, which has been created by the Royal Charter of King or Queen. Second are the statutory body, which have been established under some particular rules and regulations. And the third body is a constitutional body. Okay, so whenever we talk about the statutory body, so basically we are talking about the act. All right, so basically NHB was established under the NHB Act 1987. All right, that was the act which is responsible for the establishment of National Housing Bank. But here is one thing which is to be crystal clear. What is that? Basically, that particular figure is the establishment year. All right, what do we mean by the establishment year? Basically, most of you will conclude that the NHB was established in 1987 because the act was passed in 1987. And that's also I had made it clear in the previous lecture that however the act was passed in the 1987, but the establishment year is 1988. Got it? So please keep this thing in your mind. Second thing is that which we had already discussed in the previous lecture, but here I want it to be clear again. All right, basically what we know that NHB is a fully owned or wholly owned subsidiary of which organization? Of Reserve Bank of India. Right? Reserve Bank of India. Second thing, we had discussed about the status. What is the status of NHB? So basically, NHB is the apex institution. Right? That was we had discussed in the previous lecture also. Okay, so might be it may be ask you, or it may be the confusion which could be obtained in your mind easily if you are not previously if you are not regularly revising the sessions and if you are not listening properly. So this thing would be happen with you also. Okay, you may ask, if the NHB was the subsidiary of the Reserve Bank of India, then how we can say that it's an apex institution? So in the previous lecture also I had made it clear to you that it is called apex institution in the field of housing finance sector. Okay, however it's in a subsidiary of the Reserve Bank of India, but when we talk about the housing sector or financing the housing credit loans, in that particular area, NHB is the topmost position. Okay, all the other like Housing Finance Corporation, Housing Finance Institutions, and whatsoever the entities engaged in the housing sector will become below it. Okay, so students, these are some things which I wanted to make it clear with you, and I had done it. Okay, so now let's move forward. Banking awareness we have completed. Sorry, we are covering. All right, and this is what we have. Definition part we had completed. Regulations we had completed. Objectives we had completed. It means we are left with this part: functions, the initiatives, the PMAY, the SATHEE. Okay, there is a mistake. There is a one mistake. Okay, just correct it. It is a SATHEE, not SATHEE. Okay, SATHEE. Okay, thereafter the summary. All right, summary part. Okay, so now let's begin. Okay, so we had completed the definition, we had completed the regulation authority, we had completed the objectives. Now what we have the functions and powers which have been granted to the National Housing Bank. All right, so let's begin. So the first function is that principal agency for promotion and development of housing finance institutions. Okay, as I had told you, when we talk about the particular field, which is the field of housing finance, or you can say which is the field of the organizations which are indulging in providing credit for the housing finance, that particular type, or in that particular type, it is an apex institution. Okay, so it's a principal agency for promotion and development of housing finance institution. As the principal agency for the promotion and development of housing finance institutions, HFIs, remember here, when we talk about the housing finance sector, when we talk about housing finance sectors, so basically we have two type of acronyms, you can say. The first is HCI, second is HFI. Okay, so HCI basically stands for housing. Okay, just correct it. This is my mistake. This is HFC. This is HFI. Okay, so the first stands for housing finance credit. Okay, second stands for housing finance instrument. All right, both are wrong. Why? I had told you, you must be aware about the proper definition. Okay, this part is correct in both of them, but this part is wrong in both of them. Okay, so basically instead of credit there must be corporation. Okay, similarly instead of instrument there must be institutions. Okay, so HFC stands for the Housing Finance Corporation. HFI stands for the Housing Finance Institutions. Okay, so please keep this thing in your mind. Okay, do not get confused yourself. All right, so here we have housing finance institutions in India. NHB plays a central role in shaping and nurturing the housing finance sector. Okay, so let's move forward. So first part is that the policy formulation. Okay, in order for the promotion and development of housing finance institution, the first is the policy formulation. NHB formulates the policies, the guidelines and regulations that govern housing finance institutions, helping to create a conducive environment for their growth. Okay, so basically you can say, suppose now this is we have Okay. Thereafter, we have the HFI, we have the HFC, we have the other entities. Okay, so many things we have below it. All right, so basically here what I'm trying to show you that this position is basically the supreme or apex position. Got it? So National Housing Bank is at the top when we talk about the housing finance sector. Okay. And in the previous lecture of PFRDA, also I had told you one golden word, that if you do not have the policies, if you do not have the rules and regulations mandated, then how you will govern or develop the particular area. Okay. So that the same thing happened in the case of National Housing Bank. We see that the National Housing Bank is at the top. The bank has been implemented with the responsibility to control and manage the housing finance sector. Alright, so how the particular bank will be able to do it? Until or unless it is not able to make a proper policy formulation. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to say you. It formulates the policies, issues the guidelines, and make the regulations to govern the housing finance institutions, and also helping to create a conducive environment for their growth. It means the controlled environment and prevent unhealthy competition. Also you call them sometimes cutthroat competition. Alright, now let's move forward. Second point in this particular area is the capacity building. Okay, what do you mean by capacity? Capacity here basically signifies is basically limit to do work, or you can say potential to do work. Okay, so these two things have been signified by the capacity. Okay, first is the limit to do work and second is the potential to do work, whatever you can say. Okay, so this is the capacity. It means building them up, enlarging their limit or their potential. Okay, why? Let's see. NHB supports capacity building and the skill development in the housing finance sector. Okay, ensuring that HFIS means the housing finance institutions have the necessary expertise to serve the housing finance needs of the population. Okay, suppose if the particular housing finance institution which have been indulged in the housing finance sector, okay, now it will make the consumer base, or the more and more people will be indulging, or you can say engulfing with their services. All right, so if the housing finance sector do not have the capacity and the expertise in that particular area, so not only the institution will be degraded, but you could assume that how much of the population will be affected by it. All right, so that's why capacity building is one of the major aspects of promotion and development of housing finance institutions. All right, second is the market development. Okay, now market. What do you mean by the market? In the economics lecture also, I had told you market is not a physical place. Okay, most of us assume market has to be a physical place, like there is a place where we go and buy things and sell things. This might be correct. Okay, but market is basically, you can say, because you are going to be the professional. So in a professional way, market is basically stands for platform, or you can say any sector, or you can say any field. Market may be any platform, sector, or any field where general commodities, or you can say specified commodities being sold and purchased. Okay, so remember this thing. Market may be a platform or a sector or any field where general commodities or any specified commodities are being sold and purchased. Okay, so this is the market in a professional form, and this could be in form of physical or intangible, or you can say online and offline. Okay, physical means you can go there, visit it by personally. Okay, you can feel and touch it. Intelligible means mostly time we talk about the online market. Okay, because we could not see that the online things are going on, but we could feel them. Okay, so this is the thing. So please remember this thing. Market is not in our syllabus right now in this particular area. I had told you about it in the economics section, so I'm not going to emphasize on this, but what I'm trying to make sure that you should recall what do you mean by the market in a professional way. All right, so here we can say market development. What does it mean? It works to promote and develop housing finance markets, including both urban and rural segments. Okay, like you can say housing finance market, it means housing credit. Housing credit is now the product. Okay, so that's why it's a market form. Okay, it means the borrowers are the buyers who come in the market, and the lenders are basically the sellers who sell the credit facilities to them. All right, so this is the current market which we are talking about. Okay, and this market is not only limited with the urban or rural form, but both of them. Okay, with the goal of expanding the reach and accessibility of housing finance products and services. It means that not only the person who is living in a metropolitan city, in a grade A or grade B city, but also the person who is living in a rural area, remote area, or grade C city must have the access for the urban and rural, for the finance products and the services. Okay, this is the market development. What it will do? It will make sure that more and more people will be benefited with the housing financing services. Also, it will ensure that the HFIs will get more and more consumer base. Okay, so you can say it is the mutual benefit for both of them. All right, so this is the market development. Thereafter, providing refinance services. About refinance, I had told you in the previous lecture also. Suppose this is the consumer base. Okay, consumer base. This is the HFI. This is the NHB. Okay, so what we had discussed, suppose if this HFI is funding the consumer base, it means that they are having the capital decreasing. Why? Because the money which they had, they are providing it to the consumer base, and the consumer base will repay it to the HFI, but in installments or in a small amount. Okay, so there might be some vacuum in their available capital and the required capital. Okay, so in such a case, the NHB providing a constant finance services to the HFI so that that vacuum could be filled up. All right, and this particular scene is called the refinancing. Okay, so remember this thing: consumer base, HFI, and the NHB. This is the scene of refinancing. Okay, Now let's understand it in detail. NHB provides refinance facilities to banks and housing finance companies. In short, we call them HFCs. This function is essential for several reasons. Why? Let's see them one by one. First is the liquidity support. Liquidity means we are talking about the fluid and liquids. Okay. In the finance or the economic part, when we talk about the liquidity, basically we talk about availability of capital. Okay, for example, let me give an example. Suppose this is the person. This is having the land, and thereafter he is having the gold. Okay, both of them. This one is for rupees 10 lakh. This one is for rupees 5 lakhs. Okay, so in such a case, if I ask you how much liquidity this person has, okay, remember there is a difference between the asset and the liquidity. If we talk about the asset and the liquidity, basically asset means the total value. It means 10 and 5 rupees 15 lakhs assets he is holding right now. But liquidity means available amount of cash or credit which is available with the person at disperse immediately. Okay, so in such a case rupees 5 lakhs is a liquidity. How? Suppose if this person urgently required a money, okay, so if he go to sell the land, then we all know that selling the land is not an easy task. You will have to search for a suitable buyer, then you have to go through the legal procedures, then you have to get the payment whether in the one shot or in the installment. So this is a long process. But when we talk about the gold, then simply you have to find some jewelry shop, you have to sell your gold and you get money. Okay, so you can say power of disbursement as much as required immediately, it's holding with the gold in comparison with the land. Okay, so the liquidity will be 5 lakh only, whereas assets will be on 15 lakhs. I hope that you have got the idea of the liquidity. Okay, it means the available credit or cash with you immediately. So first is the liquidity support. By offering refinance, NHB ensures that these financial institutions have access to a stable source of liquidity at favorable terms. Okay, it means that suppose this is the consumer, this is the HFI. The HFI is providing the money to the consumer base. Their capital will be going down. Okay, in such a scenario, they will have the other assets. Okay, they might be have the land, the shares, the stock, whatever they have. Okay, so they have to sell them. Then they have to formulate a legal procedure. Then you have to collect the money and then they will calculate their capital. Then they will start providing loans to again. Okay, this will be a long procedure. Okay, in short, if the NHB constantly providing them the liquidity support, it means providing them the cash, the capital. So it means that these HFCs could continue their operations. Okay, so that's why it's for the liquidity support. Okay, and if the NHB are providing them the financial support, it means that NHB will be charging some interest or whatever you can say, but at a favorable terms, not as much as high that the HFCs will feel that they should not take a liquidity support from the NHB. Okay, in such a case, there will be a vacuum creation between the capital requirement and the available capital. Alright, so this in turn helps maintain the availability of housing loans and promotes housing finance activities. That's what I have told you. Alright, now second is the risk mitigation. Mitigation here signifies the lowering. Okay, what do we mean by risk mitigation? Let's understand. The provision of refinance facilitates helps banks and HFCs mitigate liquidity risk and interest rate risk, ensuring the smooth functioning of housing finance operations. Okay, suppose the NHB or HFC, you can say, consumer base. It is a consumer base. This is the NHB. Okay. Suppose the HFC has issued rupees 100 crores to the consumer base, and now they required rupees 50 crores. Available is only rupees 20 crores. Okay, this is the requirement, this is the availability. Okay, so if we talk about these 100 crores, as I had told you, these 100 crores will not come to them in a one shot. Okay, some of them will pay it, some of them will opt it for a EMI options, and so many things are there. All right, so now this is the vacuum creation. Vacuum creation. How? 50 crores requirement, 20 crores available. It means 30 crores having the shortage. All right. So in such a case, they having the liquidity crisis. They require 30 crores, but they do not have. Okay. First is the liquidity risk management we have seen. Second, to fulfill this condition, might be they go to some other institutions and borrow the money, maybe at the high interest rate. Okay. And if anything happens with them during their consumer base, any defaulted case will be there. It means that they had created a liability by getting the loan from somewhere at high interest rate, and now they are not getting their asset back. So you can think that the HFC will be in the difficult situation right now. Okay, so this is an example of risk management or interest risk management. So to avoid this kind of thing, NHB provides them an option. HFCs could reach the NHB under the refinance, okay, and the 30 crores will be provided by the NHB to the HFCs at favorable interest rate. Okay, so this is the risk mitigation technique. Okay, so that it ensures the smooth functioning of housing finance operation. Okay, thereafter, affordable housing promotions. What do you mean by this? By offering refinance schemes with specific incentives and the conditions, NHB encourages banks and HFCs to focus on housing loans for various segments, including economically weaker sections and the low income groups, thus promoting affordable housing. Okay, basically what happened? Suppose if the HFC is there, the HFC now getting a housing finance request from the EWS, economical weaker section, or from LIG, low income groups. So these are the people who generally are not capable to repay the loan in one shot, or they opted for the EMI options on the regular basis. Okay, so in such a case, might be the HFCs or the banks will avoid them. Okay, so that they could have a continuously credit facilities available with them. Okay, so in such a case, they will become a ignorant segment of the population. To avoid this kind of situations, the NHB assures the banks and the HFCs to provide the loan to them, and if they face any liquidity crisis, the NHB will refinance them. Okay, so that the HFCs and the banks find themselves confident in providing the loans to these groups. Okay, so this is the logic and the concept behind it. Okay. Now let's move forward. Thereafter, channelizing funds to primary lending institutions. NHB plays a pivotal role in channelizing funds to primary lending institutions for housing finance through various refinance schemes. This serves several important purposes, like first is expansion of housing finance. By making funds available to the primary lending institutions, mainly we are talking about the HFCs and the HFI. Okay, the NHB facilitates the expansion of housing finance activities across the country, thereby increasing the availability of housing loans. Okay, because the HFCs and the HFI, by getting the support of NHB, found themselves at a better place in providing the loans and other facilities to the people. All right. Thereafter, we have the targeted initiatives. What do you mean by it? NHB designs and implements various refinance schemes tailored to address specific housing finance needs such as rural housing, low income housing, and affordable housing. Okay, so you can say if the particular HFI or the HFC will providing the loans to the rural housing, low income housing, and the affordable housing schemes. So they will get the various initiatives or refinancing schemes from the NHB. Okay, so that's why the HFC and the HFI will be encouraged to provide the loans in that particular segments, which are generally a ignored segment in comparison with the others when we talk about the general banks. Okay, thereafter, promoting inclusivity. Okay, remember financial inclusion, to include those people in the banking services which are generally ignorant by the banks because they are not capable to take the loans at the higher interest rate or to repay them immediately. All right, so promoting inclusivity, the institution helps promote housing finance inclusivity by providing support for initiatives that cater to the housing needs of marginalized and undeserved communities, what we have just seen in the previous slide. All right, thereafter, housing finance companies, regulation and supervision of housing finance companies. It is very important because, as I had told you, the NHB is the apex institution, or you can say at the top. All the others comes below it. Okay, so it is the responsibility of the top that it should regulate and supervise the other below. Okay, so NHB is responsible for regulating and supervising housing finance corporations to ensure their financial stability and proper conduct. This regulatory function encompasses several aspects. How? Let's go. The first is prudential norms. It means cautious. NHB sets and enforces prudential norms that HFCs must adhere to, including maintain the adequate capital requirements, okay, assets classification norms, and the provisioning norms. Okay, adequate capital requirement means the capital requirement in the running time will be met by the capital available, okay, so that the functioning could be smooth. Okay, second is the asset classification, high value asset, low value, medium value, non-performing assets, this kind of thing. Okay, thereafter, the provisioning norms. Okay, what are the steps they are required to be taken in order to providing the housing finance? What are the things they need to be considered? Okay, corporate governance and other things you could include in it. Okay, to maintain the health and stability of the sector. Okay, so it is about the prudential norms. Thereafter, the risk management. NHB monitors HFC's risk management practices to safeguard the financial interest of borrowers and investors. For example, suppose if the HFC showing 100 active customers, okay, and thereafter the NHB is refinancing them, providing other facilities, but while auditing and other areas, it is found that out of these 100 active customers, 30 customers are non-performing asset. Okay, means who are not paying back the EMIs or not repayment the loan. Okay, so in such a scenario, it is the risk. Already, this particular HFC is having the 30 NPA. Okay, and still they are providing the loans to the new customers. All right, so it will create a disstability or instability. So in such a case, the NHB monitors the HFC's risk management practices to safeguard the financial interest of the borrowers and investors. Okay. Thereafter, the corporate governance. The regulator ensures that HFCs maintain high standards of corporate governance and ethical conduct in their operations. Okay, corporate governance means transparency in their operations. Okay, you can say ethical management. All right, ethical conduct means that they should display their terms and conditions properly before borrower, okay, before investors, and also they should communicate the right and the proper information with the NHB. Okay, so this is the part of corporate governance. So all right, now we have finished this part also. Okay, now we have to deal with initiatives and the reforms. Okay, this one we have finished. Okay, so now we have initiatives and reforms, then we have PMAY, then SARFAESI, and then summary. Okay, so let's start. First is the special refinance scheme. Okay, what do you mean by it? Let's start. NHB has introduced special refinance schemes aimed at providing financial support to housing finance institutions, HFCs, and banks. This scheme have specific features to promote the affordability of housing loans. All right, and cater to various segments of population, including the EWS, economically weaker section. Okay, let's begin. So the first step doing so is the interest rate subvention. Okay, under some of these schemes, NHB may offer interest rate subvention, meaning it subsidizes a portion of the interest rate payable on housing loans. This can significantly reduce the cost of borrowing for borrowers. For example, you can say, suppose you have borrowed rupees 1 lakh at 5% for 2 years. So it means that 5 to 10, you have to pay back rupees 10,000 with the 1 lakh. So you can say you will have to pay this amount back to the bank. Okay, in such a case, the interest rate, which is the 5% in this case, this could be subsidized, and this could be only 2% or 3%. And if it's happened, it means that 2% of this particular case, 1 lakh, is basically, all right, let me check the thing. Okay, in such a case will be 2, 4, and then means 4,000. Okay, so now you have to only pay 1 lakh 4,000. Okay, so this is the facility or subsidized facility provided to the borrowers. Okay, so this is called the interest rate subvention, so that the people who wanted to build their house and searching the financial services, they should come to the formal financial services, not go to the informal financial services. Okay, thereafter, what we have the low processing fees. Okay, what do you mean by it? NHB's special refinance schemes may also include provisions for reduced processing fees and charges for housing loans. Okay, what does it mean by it? Suppose if you ever went to take the loan from the bank, or any one of your family has gone to take the loan from the bank, they always charging some processing fees and the charges. Okay, so NHB may put the condition before the HFCs or FHI in order to refinancing them, that if they reduce their processing fees and the charges they are charging from the customer who is coming for taking the loan, thereafter they may have some special schemes for that particular HFCs and HFI. What this will do? This will making the loan more affordable to the borrower, because now he is not liable to pay high processing fees and the charges. All right, thereafter, targeted outreach. What do you mean by it? This scheme often target specific segments such as rural or low income borrowers, and may offer incentives or benefits tailored to the need of these groups. Okay, because these groups are generally what? Excluded, or you can say excluded by the banks. Okay, why I had told you so many times. And may offer incentives or benefits tailored to the needs of this group. Okay, not only making this affordable for them, but also provide incentives for benefit to the HFI or the HFCs if they provide the loans to these people. All right. Thereafter, credit linked subsidy scheme, CLSS. Okay, please remember two things here. The first is CLS, or you can say CLSS is basically associated with which bank? National Housing Bank. The question may be asked, CLSS is a flagship scheme of which bank? The answer should be NHB. Second question which could be asked about the full form part. Credit linked subsidy schemes. Okay. Credit linked subsidy schemes. Okay. So remember these 2 points. Okay. Now let's understood it. NHB, in collaboration with the government and the other stakeholders, has launched the Credit Linked Subsidy Scheme CLSS as a part of Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana PMAY. Now, another term we have got CLSS, which means Credit Linked Subsidy Scheme, is launched by the NHB or is a flagship scheme of NHB under Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana PMAY. Okay, so remember this thing. These schemes aim to provide interest subsidies to lower income and economical weaker section borrowers. All right. First is the interest subsidy. Under CLSS, eligible borrowers receive an interest subsidy on their housing loans. This subsidy reduces the effective interest rate, making home ownership more affordable. As I have told you, suppose 5% is the interest rate, so this will be reduced to 2 or 3%. Okay, so that the loan and repayment of it become more affordable to the holder. Thereafter, we have income and property categories. Okay, CLSS often categorizes beneficiaries based on their income and the size of property they intend to purchase. The subsidy amount varies based on this criteria. If your income is good, the subsidy will be low. If your size property is big, the subsidy will be high. Okay, you can say, suppose high income and low size property. High income and low size property, the CLSS will be low. Okay, but on the other hand, if first case, second case, low income and big size property, okay, CLS will be high. Okay, so please remember this case. High income and the low size property, CLSS will be low. Low income and the big size property, CLSS will be high. All right. So it varies based on these criteria. Thereafter, we have the economic empowerment. What do you mean by it? These schemes help economically weaker sections access housing finance, encouraging home ownership and improving their living conditions, because now they could get the loan on the subsidized interest rate and other terms and conditions. Thereafter, incentives for affordable housing development. NHB encourages housing finance institution to focus on affordable housing development by offering incentives and support. Okay, it means that, as I have told you, if the HFI or the HFC indulge in providing the loans to the economical weaker section, to the low income group, okay, and to the other marginalized segments, then in the refinancing scheme, maybe NHB will provide them incentives and support, which is the specialized for them. All right. So this is the incentives for affordable housing development. Thereafter, in this, first we have the lower risk weights. What do you mean by it? Let's understand. NHB may prescribe lower risk weights for loans to affordable housing projects, which can be advantageous for banks and FHEs as it reduces the capital requirement for these loans. Okay, so please remember, lower risk weights is basically for the affordable housing projects and basically to reduce the capital requirement for these loans. All right. Thereafter, we have the enhanced LTV ratio. What do you mean by it? Let's understand. Okay, NHB may allow higher loan to value ratios for affordable housing loans, enabling borrowers to finance a greater portion of their home purchase through loans. Okay, so please remember the full form of LTV. What do you mean by it? Let me understand. Suppose if you are buying the home of rupees 10 lakh, okay, and if you go to the bank will say, okay, we will refinance it up to 25%. It means 2 lakh and 50,000 will be paid by the bank, and thereafter 6 lakh, all right, 7 lakh 50,000, 7 lakh and 50,000 will have to be paid by you. Okay, so it means that this is a ratio of 75 ratio 25. 25% will be financed and the 70% will be have to pay by you. Okay, but what NHB did, NHB basically enhances the loan to value ratio. If the value is 10%, then might be you get a finance up to 50%. So it means that rupees 5 lakhs have to be paid by you and rupees 5 lakh have to be paid by the bank. Okay, so in such a scenario 75-25 ratio was there. In this case 50% ratio is there. Understood? Okay, so this is basically called as the LTV, loan to value ratio. The value of the asset and the loan could be granted for the finance. Okay, so remember this thing. Thereafter, financial inclusion initiatives. NHB initiatives also aim at promoting financial inclusion by supporting housing finance for marginalized communities, okay, and undeserved areas. All right, this may involve setting up special products and schemes tailored to the specific need of these communities. Okay, so in such a scene, first we have the rural housing finance. Okay, NHB promotes housing finance, encouraging banks and HFCs to extend their services to the rural areas which may have unique housing needs and challenges. Thereafter, we have the partnership with microfinance institutions, also called as MFIs. NHB may collaborate with the microfinance institutions and the self-help groups, okay, to expand housing finance to individuals and communities with limited access to the formal financial institutions. Okay, like if there is a group of people like a cooperative group, okay, and if this is a microfinance institutions which indulging in that particular housing sector, so they could also reach the NHB in order to finance the individuals for housing purpose. Okay, so Why? Because they're having a limited access to the formal financial institutions because of their limited capital adequacy, limited capital capacity, you can say. All right, remember this point. Thereafter, we have the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, PMAY. Okay, let's understand it. First is Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana is a flagship housing scheme of the Indian government with the aim of providing affordable housing to all by 2022. But however, due to COVID in the 2020, we have to expand it later. Okay. The National Housing Banks plays a significant role in implementing PMAY, particularly by providing interest subsidies to the eligible beneficiaries to make housing loans more affordable. All right. So remember these points. Second, objective of PMAY. Primary objective is to address the housing needs of economically weaker sections, low income groups and middle groups in urban and the rural areas. All right. Middle income groups basically. These schemes seeks to provide affordable and quality housing to these segments with a particular focus on promoting home ownership. Got it? Thereafter, PMAY consists of various components including two segments. First is Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana in urban segment. Second is Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana in rural segment. Okay? For the urban segment, this components focusing on urban areas and it's further divided into slum rehabilitation, affordable housing in partnership and beneficiary led construction. Okay, so these are the three main points under the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana in the urban aspect. For rural area, this component targets rural areas and provides assistance for the construction and enhancement of the houses. Okay, so their areas and the particular aim, it should be remembered by you. Okay. Thereafter, role of NHB in the PMAY. As we have done in the starting that the NHB having a significant role in PMAY, let's understood it. NHB plays a vital role in the implementation of the PMAY by facilitating the provision of interest subsidies to eligible beneficiaries. This role involves several key aspects like, let's start. First is ISHUP. Now again, ISHUP related with the NHB, part of PMAY, and the full form stands for this: Interest Subsidy Scheme for Housing the Urban Poor. Okay, let's understood. NHB is responsible for implementing the interest subsidy scheme for housing the urban poor. It means the poor who are living in the urban areas. Under this scheme, interest subsidies are provided to the economical weaker sections and low income groups to make housing loans more affordable to them. Okay. Thereafter, next we have the ISDBT. Please remember, ISDBT is related to the NHB, is a part of PMAY, and the full form stands for this: Interest Submission and Direct Benefit Transfer. NHB coordinates with lending institutions such as banks and housing finance corporations to ensure that the interest subsidies is passed on to eligible beneficiaries. The interest submission and the subsidy amounts are typically credited directly to the borrower's loan accounts, reducing the effective interest rate on their housing loans. Okay, this is the criteria. You can say, suppose if you have paid rupees 5,000 as the interest, okay, this you have to pay. All right, you might get 50% interest subsidy. Okay, so it means that 5,000 you have paid as an interest, and if you get 50% interest subsidy, so rupees 25,000 will be credited back to you. Okay, and under the mission of Digital India, which is the flagship scheme of Indian government to digitalize the government procedures and all, and was launched in the year of 2016. All right. So for under this scheme, you will unveil the DBT. Okay, like direct bank transfer or benefit transfer, you can say. Direct benefit transfer. All right. So it means that the rupees 2500, which is the subsidies of this total amount paid by you, will be come to your bank account directly. Okay. So remember, this is the ISDBT. Okay. Thereafter, what is the eligibility criteria under this scheme? Eligibility for interest subsidy is based on various criteria, including the income of the beneficiary household. Okay. This might be, you can say, come to this like. Okay, I will tell you. Property location and whether the beneficiary or family members already own a puka house. You can say, for example, suppose if the government fixed the income of rupees 5 lakhs per annum. If the cumulative income of the family is below rupees 5 lakh per annum, it means that they are eligible. Okay. However, this is not the actual limit. I'm just trying to give you an example. Okay. But if the income is above that particular limit, that the family will be ineligible. Second case, if the property is in tier 1, okay, tier 2, all right, tier 3. If the property is in tier 1, tier 2 and tier 3 states or city, you can say, so the subsidies will be higher because these cities are expensive. Okay. So it means that to acquire a property in that particular city required a high capital, and the high capital means the high interest rate have to be paid. Okay. So subsidies will be higher to make sure that this particular loan is in the affordable sense to the borrower. Okay. Second is, if the family members already own a puka house, it means already having the house, then in such a case might be their eligibility will be affected. Okay. Eligible beneficiaries are often required to meet specific criteria for home size and cost as well. Okay. So this all the things are considered before declared anyone eligible for the PMAY. Okay. And get the benefits from the NHP. Thereafter, the income categories. PMAY typically categorize beneficiaries into two segments. The first segment is the EWS, economical weaker segments. Second is the low income groups, LIG, and the third is the middle income groups. Okay. So remember, there are only 3 income categories under the PMAY. Okay. Like economical weaker sections, low income groups, and the middle income groups. There is no third category in them. Okay. So please keep this thing in your mind. Okay. Thereafter, benefits of NHP's role in PMAY. Affordable housing. By providing interest subsidies, NHP helps lower the effective interest rate on housing loans, making home ownership more affordable for eligible beneficiaries. Thereafter, housing for all. PMAY facilitated by NHP contributes to the government vision of housing for all by 2022, which I have already told you due to the COVID extended further, thereby addressing the housing needs of economical weaker sections and the low income groups. Okay. Empowerment. By making housing loans more accessible and affordable, NHB's role in PMAY empowers beneficiaries to own their houses, improving their quality of life and the financial security. Alright, so students, These are the things which we have completed so far. We have also completed this particular area, this one also. In the next lecture, we will cover the SAR-FACE and the summary. Till then, just revise all the facts and figures properly, okay, so that you would be able to grasp the facts and figures in this lecture and be able for the other lecture also. With this note, let's say thank you.